My name is David Self. I'm one of two safety inspectors in the Safety, Environmental, and Housekeeping Department. I just want to introduce myself to you today, tell you a little bit about my office, tell you what our office does, when you can utilize us if you need help, and how to get a hold of us. So we'll jump right in. On a daily basis, this is a list of things that our office does. For the most part, we read, interpret, and apply federal, state, and local codes to JCPS as a district. Our main category would be OSHA compliance. Deal with that most every day. We do EPA compliance. We assist the state fire marshals doing state fire inspections on all of our facilities. We also offer safety training such as this. Our office does CPR and first aid training for the district. We run the Federal Alcohol and Controlled Substance Testing Program. If you're going to operate a board vehicle or an official vehicle, you'll be, or a bus or anything along those lines, you'll be required to participate in the drug and alcohol testing program. We do indoor air quality investigations. That's mold. If there's a concern about mold in a school, we'll come in and identify the problem and help eliminate that. We do emergency response. Anything that affects the normal routine at a school, fire, flood, water outage, boil water advisory. Typically we'll go to the school and manage the emergency and let the principal do the principal stuff. So that keeps us busy as well. We do housekeeping, staffing, and equipment repair out of our office. We also maintain, clean, and repair carpet through our office. We run the integrated pest management program from our office. I'll tell you a little bit more about how that works and what that is later on. I want to let you know we've got a website. This is a great way to contact us. It's got a lot of our forms and programs in it. If you ever have any questions, feel free to snoop around through our website. And if you have any questions, you can go to the Contact Us section and locate everyone in our office, our contacts, and our emails. And feel free to get a hold of us through that. One thing I want to show everyone is the school MSDS program, and I just want to point out the link, and we're going to talk about it later, but here's where the link is. I want everybody to identify where that is and be familiar with it, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. A couple goals today. Discuss why safety is so important to you all, why it's so important to us. We're going to talk about what the law requires. Does anybody know what law I'm talking about?
OSHA?
OSHA, that's exactly right. Anybody want to guess what OSHA stands for?
Organization for Safety and
Occupational Safety and Health Act. And basically the only point to that is it is to keep all employees safe. It's not for students, it's not for parents, it's only for employees. So everyone in here should be familiar with that. And we'll talk about that more in a minute as well. We want to talk about your individual role at promoting workplace safety. A couple statistics for you. This is why safety is so important. 6 million workers are injured in America every year on the job while they're at work. That's a huge number. That could be anyone in this room. Those injuries and illnesses, they cost their employers over $100 billion a year. Not really financially driven here. It's not how this system works. But obviously, if we can reduce those injuries and out-of-pocket expenses, it's going to mean more time for you to be back in the classroom, back as a custodian, back as a director, whatever your job title is. It's going to get you back to work faster, and it's going to get you back with your family. My main motivation, again, it's not financial. It's you get to spend time with your family. If you're laying on the couch or in a hospital with an injured back, you can't make that time with your family. And that's what we want to get you back to. But employers are required by law to provide a safe workplace. We already talked about what that law is and how that works. And we want you to know that safety and health is a top priority here at JCPS. Now, let's get into the OSHA part of it. Why that's so important to me that you all know that, here's the simple reason. Everyone in here pays for it. When you pull your paycheck stub up, that's emailed to you every 2 weeks, it's got a little section at the bottom, state and federal taxes, that Uncle Sam takes out a nice handful of money. He takes that money and he puts them in these programs to keep you all safe. So everyone in here is paying a little bit out of every check to protect yourself while you're at work. So we know that OSHA regulates most aspects of workplace safety and health. These regulations must be followed. They can come in and fine the employer. In some cases, they can fine the employee. Some people do jail time when they fail to follow these regulations. But they want to help the employers comply with these regulations. Everybody is afraid of OSHA coming in and fining them. Well, we invite them in. We welcome them to come in. If we can find a better way to do something, we want that input. We want to do it better. We want to do it right. So that's our take on OSHA. Let me give you a quick background on how this works and how they protect you all. Before it was OSHA, in the early 70s, this group was tasked with following this medical field. They saw these nurse ladies were getting ill at work. So they started looking at it, putting things on graphs. Sure enough, these nurses, they had an illness spike while they were at work. A bunch of them were getting sick, and there was a peak on a graph. They looked at it a little bit more, and they found out what the peak was. Some of you may remember going and getting an allergy shot. They would uncap the needle, they would administer the shot, and they would recap the needle. Anybody remember recapping of needles? It did happen at one point. What they found was these nurses, when they went to recap the needle, they'd miss the cap and they'd stick themselves. And whatever it was contaminated with, hepatitis, HIV, whatever was on the end of that needle, when they stuck themselves, now they were contaminated. They had that. And that's what represented that spike. That's how they were getting sick at work. So they identified the issue. They changed some regulations. Does anybody see anybody recap a needle recently? No, it's against the law. That's how they fixed it. They've basically outlawed it. They make some devices that clasp over the needle. You can put them directly in a red box. They have special recappers, but you do not recap a needle. And so that peak in that graph flattened out. Those people stopped getting sick. So that's how they identify issues, make some changes, make corrections, and get you guys to be safer while you're at work. One thing that came out of that was a bloodborne pathogen plan. They said every location has to have an individual plan. You all need to know that all of these plans can be different. You may end up at a special needs school like Churchill Park, where you're anticipated to get exposed to blood every day. You may end up at a standard elementary school where you're not anticipated. So you need to know where you are, what their plan is, how their plan works. And you will get an annual training. Your employer should bring you in at the beginning of school. You should watch an online video. It's available on our website as well. It's about 28 minutes. It's an instructional DVD about JCPS's bloodborne pathogen program. Should answer any questions you have. It also talks in there about universal precautions. That's just a fancy term to say, excuse me, treat any fluid that comes out of any person, no matter how well you know them, or what your relationship is with them, as being contaminated. You can't just look at blood or body fluids and say, oh, it's all clean, I can get it on me. It's not how it works. You have to have it tested. So we just say, treat it all like it's contaminated, don't get it on you. It also talks about engineering controls. I gave you an example of an engineering control earlier. It was the red box on the wall. Engineer yourself away from that needle stick. Instead of putting the cap on it, you put it directly in the red box. So that's an engineering control. You can use those at a school. If little Johnny comes in with a laceration on his hand from the playground, instead of getting involved and potentially getting contaminated with that blood, give them the wet paper towels and the Band-Aids, send it down, let them apply that pressure. If somebody comes in with a nosebleed, instead of potentially getting involved with that, let them take care of it. Now, also I know that sometimes when they come in, they're panicked, they're freaking out, and you do have to get involved. In that situation, what do you have to do? What's the first thing you do if you have to get involved? Exactly. You have to protect yourself. You have to put those gloves on. Excuse me. I'd also like for you to know that some of you may have latex allergies. If you are identified to have a latex allergy, you let your employer know and they will get you a different kind of glove. Typically it's a nitrile glove where you won't have those allergic reactions, but you got to let them know up front. But they will give you that personal protective equipment and you just have to make sure you get it on before you get contaminated. Now, there are certain situations where, for example, a child walking down the hallway, he walks up to you, you ask what's wrong, he removes his hands and blood squirts out and it gets in your face. It could happen. What's the first thing you're going to do? You got to wash it off. You got to get that blood off of there. So you're going to get your soap and you're going to decontaminate yourself, whatever area it went on. You're going to sing the happy birthday song or however long you have to wash to get that good kill time. But you got to wash it off first and foremost. Get yourself cleaned up. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to go to the office. You're going to ask for this bloodborne pathogen plan. You're going to get some paperwork out. You're going to fill it out. And then you're going to go see a real live doctor. You're going to have a conversation. You're going to come up with a treatment plan. You and the doctor may determine that, yes, you're going to start on the hepatitis vaccinations. We're going to put you on a 6-month monitoring program. But you and a doctor will work that out. It'll all be paid for by your employer. But the trick is, wash the affected area, report it, make it happen immediately. Remember that some of these things have shorter windows, longer windows. You don't have the luxury of waiting. You have to immediately go see a doctor. We already talked about the personal protective equipment, and for the most part, that's gloves when we're talking about it at your all's level. Does anybody have any questions about bloodborne pathogens? I think there's a pamphlet in your handout. If you have more questions than that, go to our website. Additional questions, just email me. So that's one of the ways that OSHA identifies problems and applies it to different workplaces. Another way that they do it is with chemicals. There's chemicals in every building, cleaning chemicals, housekeeping chemicals, machinery. If it's a wood shop or a metal shop, there's going to be different chemicals. Printing shops have different chemicals. And so what OSHA says is it's your all's right to know what chemicals you work around, okay? And that's something you guys want to know. For instance, if you're in a metal stamping facility and you're working around all these toxic chemicals, you want to know, do these chemicals cause cancer if I work with them every day? Well, how do I know that? This program gets you that information. It is your all's right to know about the chemicals you work with or are exposed to. That's called the HAZ-COM program. It's going through some changes. But basically how it works, at every location there is a red binder. Every chemical in the building has a piece of paper in that red binder. It's called a material safety data sheet. And on that material safety data sheet tells everything about the chemical. Who makes it, where it's made, what comprises the mixture of chemicals. What do you do if you get it on your skin? What do you do if you drink it? What happens if it catches on fire? How do you store it properly? Does it cause cancer? Everything is on this form. And you can get your hands on that in this red binder. The link that I pointed to on our website, it's all online as well. If you can make it to our website, you can click on there and you can search for hand sanitizer and it'll bring up the safety data sheet for hand sanitizer. So that's why I wanted to point that out earlier. My advice to you on this is if it is going to be your job to work with chemicals, you need to be familiar with that before you start to work with it. The best example I can give you is if you're a first day custodian and you grab your blue toilet bowl cleaner and you go down and you spray it on the toilet and it bounces up and goes in your eye, are you going to be able to go read and find out what to do? No, you got blue toilet bowl cleaner in your eye, you got some problems. You need to be familiar with that before you get the toilet bowl cleaner in your hand. You'll receive individual training. If you're a cafeteria person, you're going to get it during their summer institute. If you're a housekeeping person, you're going to get it during their summer institute. But you will receive training on the HAZ-COM program. Like it says, MSDSs are available. They're online and are on our website, and the hard copy is in the red binder at the facility. Okay, so one change that's occurring with this program. When this first occurred, it was just for the United States. Now we're in a globalized economy and we're buying products from all over the world. And what we found was that if we buy a product from Asia or Argentina or wherever we get chemicals from, they're on a different system than we are. So it's lost in translation. We don't get the information that we need to keep our employees safe. So OSHA has said we're going to come up with a globally harmonized system. Everyone in the whole world will now be in harmony. We're all going to be on the same page. We're all going to speak the same language. So they've reformatted this. And it's a universal hazard warning system. I'm not going to read this to you. You guys can read it. But they've changed the name from material safety data sheets to just safety data sheets. They're all going to have 14 sections. They also try to simplify it by going through pictograms. So all new chemicals will now have pictures explaining what it is that can happen and the outcome if you get exposed to these chemicals. So be looking for these changes. You'll start to see them on print in bottles, things like that. But there are some changes. If you need more information, you can go and get a whole training segment if you follow this link on our website. Any questions about HAZ-COM or chemicals or your rights within chemicals? Yes, yes, you first. Go ahead.
On the MSDS website, on those chemical or material you expose over there, are only the one we use at the JCPS, or in general you put as much as you can over there?
With the online database, you can search from 10 million chemicals. If you go to the red binder, it's going to be the chemicals that are at that location. And they're going to be different from location to location. One school may have a product that this school doesn't. So if you go online and search, you can search all of them. But if you go to the red binder, it's just going to have what the school has in it. We good? Okay. Personal protective equipment, what the law says is it has to be available for your use, has to be appropriate for the job that you're doing, meaning that if you're going to weld football bleachers all day, you can't do it with a pair of cotton gloves. That's not appropriate. You need heavy leather welding gloves to protect yourself. So it has to be appropriate for the job that you're doing. It has to remain in good condition and it has to be used at all times. This is one of those things that the employer has to provide for you. I can't say you're going to be welding, go to Walmart and get some leather gloves to protect yourself. That's not how this works. I have to give you the gloves to protect yourself. So if you have any questions about that, once you get where you're going, feel free to email us. I want to let you know about your disaster and emergency planning expectations when you get on site. You're going to have 2 fire drills within the first 30 days of school. You're going to have 1 fire drill each month after that. Obviously, we want to drill that into these kids' heads so they can walk out of the building blindfolded if need be. That's why there is so much of it. Earthquake drills, you're going to have 2 of those every year. Tornado and safe area drills, 2 of those. Lockdown drill, currently at 1 per year for that. Other recommended drills, bomb threats. We don't see a whole lot of those anymore. The laws have changed and the kids get in a lot more trouble than they used to with the bomb threat, so those have really declined. Chemical release. If you think about the airports, the highways, the train yards, rubber town, all of the stuff that is around our town that chemicals can be moved through, that is a real potential, a chemical leak. And so it doesn't take much for 2 tanker trucks to clunk together, knock a fitting off. Green methyl killia gas is spilling out on the ground, forms a cloud, the wind picks it up and starts blowing it. We got a school 2 miles down the road. So you need to be familiar with the notification procedures, what it sounds like, what to do, where to go, when to do it. We don't want to have anyone hear a bell go off and go out to where they think the fire drill meeting area is supposed to be, and then here comes this green cloud of gas. So be familiar with the different bells. They are different from school to school, and make sure you act appropriately. Each site should have an individual plan for chemicals. Yes?
Out of curiosity, are these drills done at facilities other than the school?
Some of them are. Some of them are. There is a plan for each one. Now, whether they rehearse them or not is at the discretion of the building manager. These are required through educational. These are required. These are recommended. Now, once you get into your administration buildings, I'd say they probably do. We do at CB Young some fire drills, and we do a lockdown drill, and we do a tornado safe area drill. And sometimes we participate in the earthquake drill. You've done that? At Van Hoos, you've done all of them? Okay. Well, we try to match what the schools do. Is that good?
Yep.
Okay. Want to let you all know, you remember how OSHA would track those injuries and they identified that spike? We do the same thing. We collect all of that data and we go through it, and so we have a pretty good idea of how people get injured here, what happens from year to year. So this is 2011 calendar year. We had almost 18,000 full-time employees. So that's a lot of people that work here. There is this thing called an OSHA recordable injury. An OSHA recordable injury is defined as first aid, anything above first aid. So if you get injured at work and you go receive medical attention, here's the categories. Stitches, prescriptions, broken bones, loss of consciousness, days away from work, restricted work, or death. If you receive any of those things, you qualify to go on this report. So they're serious injuries. So out of 18,000 people, we only had about 566 of those in the whole district. So that should tell everyone in here, a lot of people work here, very small amount get injured, but here's the kicker. Those 566 people lost a total of almost 8,000 days away from work during one calendar year. Again, yes, a lot of money that workers' comp paid out for that, but think about the time that works out, that you've lost your family time, you've lost your bowling league, your softball league, your fishing, whatever it is you like to do. If you're on a couch injured, you're not going to get to do those things. So we've got subs, we can make do while you're out, but we would really prefer that you're here with us to do your job. So how did those people get injured? Number one injury category for JCPS all the time, slips, trips, and falls. Slipped in the wet grass on the way into work, slipped in the chocolate milk on the hallway, tripped over a backpack strap, tripped over a rug, fell off a ladder, fell off a loading dock. It's some form or fashion of slips, trips, and falls. Number one has been for 12 years since I've been here. Number two, always a close, but always number two, motion injuries. Typically associated with the lower back, lifting, pushing, pulling, overhead stuff. That is our number two injury category. So pay attention to these things when you're doing them while at work. This is how the majority of our people get injured. My 2 cents worth of advice for you today. When you get to your location, make friends with a plant operator. They are valuable to that building. They know the building. They're familiar with it. They have all of the tools you need to keep yourself safe while you're at work. Every year I have a group of employees that at the beginning of the year or at the end of the year, they'll take a chair with wheels on it and they'll put it up on top of a desk and they'll go and try to take down posters or put up posters. And I think we can all figure out what happens next. The chair goes this way, they go that way. It's usually a broken bone. If you go see your friend, the plant operator, he or she has ladders, step stools, rolling carts, work platforms, dollies, whatever you need, they've got it. Proper cleaning chemicals and cleaning supplies, deodorizers, air fresheners, they have it. You just have to make that connection and let them know what you need. So please, before you put a chair with wheels on it on top of a desk, go see your buddy and get a ladder. Anybody in here are going to be doing safe physical management, where you secure kids on the ground that are out of control. If you ever get to that capacity, we highly recommend that you seek out the proper training techniques for that. We have a lot of long-term lost work injuries for people wrestling with kids on the ground, mostly strained backs. So make sure if you're going to be doing that, that you get the proper training. Okay, we assist the state fire marshals. They regulate our buildings, and so they come in and inspect them usually twice a year. Get very upset when they find infractions. They take it seriously. They want to protect the kids. But it's a law that you cannot have an open flame in an educational facility. You can't set anything on fire. Unless it's curriculum based, like a Bunsen burner, then that's okay. But you can't just have a candle in your room and burn it. And I know we sell candles at PTA sales, tremendous amounts of candles out there. You can have them, you cannot set them on fire. I'll give you a free one. The home interior candle warmers or coffee cup warmers, you can plug those in and set the candle on top of it. It will melt it and give you the smells that you like. So you can do that. Blocked exits. Anything with an exit sign above it, you cannot put anything in front of it. You can't push a custodial cart in front of it. You can't pile up book bags, backpacks, jackets. You can't put anything in front of a door that says exit. He will get very upset if he finds that. And people will not be able to get out of the building. So no blocked exits. No extension cords. Extension cords are not for permanent use. They're for temporary use. We don't allow them in schools. And I can't tell you how many times I've come in and Found a big orange extension cord plugged in here, going up above the ceiling and over to here at the teacher's desk where there was no plug. And so what could happen is that extension cord, if it fails above the ceiling, it's going to set everything above the ceiling on fire. Our smoke detectors are below the ceiling, so it will never catch it. It will burn everything up before the smoke detector knows that there is a fire. So no extension cords. Usually I have a display around here. I don't see it. The cord strips with the rocker switch on and off, and it's got a cord on it and 6 plugs. You can use those. That is acceptable from the fire marshal. You can use those. We have them in the warehouse in 6-foot and I believe 15-foot length. So we should be able to get them long enough to meet your needs. But make sure you have that. The difference between an extension cord and a cord strip, if something goes wrong in an extension cord, its only option is to catch on fire. If something goes wrong in a cord strip, it can technically shut itself off and protect it. So, no extension cords. Refrigerators, microwaves, coffee pots, they have to plug directly into the wall. Just like at your house, if you decided you wanted to move your refrigerator, you wouldn't plug it into an extension cord or a cord strip. Don't do that here either. These things have draw a lot of amps when they start up, and they can literally burn the cords up. So make sure they're plugged directly into the wall. Also, you can never plug 2 cord strips in together to make them longer. That's called daisy chaining. It is illegal. You can't do that. Any questions about fire regulations? Okay. Building operations and communications. This is in here for emergency response. When I show up to a school that has had a fire or a water outage or something, I just like to let you know how I come in the building. I'm always going to go to the principal or the building manager. By law, they are responsible. And so that's where I start. The next person I go to see is the plant operator. They can get me good things like work orders, take care of safety issues, get equipment repaired, get me specialty equipment like ladders and approved cleaning supplies. On the lines of approved cleaning supplies, do not bring anything for your personal use in cleaning wise into the building. Remember the safety data sheets that we talked about? We have all those on a list for our chemicals. If you go bring in a chemical that we don't have that for, and then someone gets exposed or a student breaks the top off of your Lysol and drinks it and splashes it in some other kid's eyes, we don't have the paperwork to tell the doctor how to fix it. So leave your chemicals at home, utilize our chemicals that we have the proper paperwork for, and we won't run into that problem. Along those same lines, I talked about integrated pest management on the first slide. I want to kind of bring that back. Integrated pest management is a way to control pests without using chemicals. We've got 3 gentlemen that work with us, and their only job is to control pests for the district. These guys are getting in tunnels, they're getting above roofs, they're getting in these awful spaces and catching bats and cats and rats and possums and terrible stuff, snakes that nobody wants to deal with, but they deal with it every day, and then they take it to Iroquois Park and let it go. So what you need to know about that is if you come in and you find a trail of ants going down your wall, get with your buddy, the plant operator. They'll do a work order and someone will come out and take care of that the right way. Again, we don't use chemicals. They'll use glue traps, food exclusion, hormones, pheromones. They have all these techniques where we don't use chemicals. It's important for you to know that you can't run down to Walmart and buy some skull and crossbones juice and just spray it on the floor to take care of the problem, because yes, that will fix the problem, but you have a first grader crawling around, hand goes in the skull and crossbones juice, hand goes in the mouth, we got a serious problem on our hands. So keep your chemicals at home, keep your pest control chemicals at home, herbicides, any of that stuff. Follow the proper procedures, we'll get it taken care of, and then we'll have the paperwork to cover ourselves. So, any questions on that? And then who is responsible for your safety? It's you. We're here as a resource. We're here to help. And we're certainly glad to do that when we can. But for the most part, it's up to you whether you go home with all the fingers and toes and eyes that you came to work with that morning. So let us know what you need. Let us know how we can help you. And good luck out there. Here's my contact information if anybody needs that. Thank you.